Please subscribe my channel. When my wife first mentioned she was going away on a work trip, I didn't think too hard about it. She'd been under a lot of pressure lately, constantly talking about how her team leaned on one another to get through the stress. Still, something about the way she said it unsettled me. She brought up her work husband again, a term she had tossed around before with a laugh, but this time there was no hint of humor in her tone. The words sat heavy in my chest, and though I didn't want to admit it, my instincts screamed that something was wrong. Over the next few days, I watched her prepare with a level of excitement I hadn't seen in years. She carefully folded her best dresses into the suitcase, chose her most expensive perfume, the one she usually saved for our anniversaries or nights out. She smiled to herself as she packed, humming under her breath like a teenager sneaking out for a secret. She called it business, but I couldn't ignore the truth that lingered in the way she moved. I didn't confront her immediately. I held it in, letting my suspicion quietly build while I made my own discreet inquiries. Soon enough, I found out which hotel she had booked. What I didn't expect to learn was that her so-called work husband had reserved a room there too. That was when I made a choice. Instead of exploding in anger, instead of storming into her face with accusations, I decided to reach out to the one other person who deserved the truth as much as I did, his wife. I still had her number from a company dinner where we had been introduced. At first, she brushed off my concerns, clinging to the belief that her husband wouldn't do such a thing. But when I sent her the proof, the reservations, the details she couldn't deny, her defenses crumbled. Silence followed on the other end of the line, then a quiet, trembling agreement. We would confront them together. The hotel lobby was polished, buzzing with guests dragging luggage, the kind of place meant for business travelers and secret getaways alike. We sat off to the side, waiting, not rushing. It didn't take long. They walked in together, laughing, bodies close enough to betray their supposed professionalism. At the counter, they checked in as if they were a couple, their smiles too comfortable, their ease with one another too intimate. My chest burned like fire, but I forced myself to stay calm. Beside me, his wife's hands shook, though her eyes were set in stone. When the clerk slid their key cards across the desk, we rose and stepped forward. The air seemed to change instantly. Their laughter stopped. My wife's face drained of every bit of color, her lips parting but no words coming out. The man with her shifted uncomfortably, stammering nonsense, caught like a child with his hand in the jar. The silence around us was deafening. People in the lobby slowed their steps, turning their heads, sensing something about to unravel. I didn't yell. I didn't make a spectacle. Instead, with steady calm, I said, "Funny how you both forgot to mention your real spouses are standing right here." My words hit harder than any shouting could have. His wife stepped forward then, her voice sharp, trembling with both rage and heartbreak. "And you really thought we'd never find out?" she said, cutting through the air like a blade. The two of them scrambled for excuses. They spoke of team bonding, of support, of friendship, words that sounded empty against the sight of their matching luggage and the memory of their hands clasped only moments before. Nobody in that lobby believed them. Neither did we. Their betrayal hung in the air, undeniable and ugly. I looked directly at my wife. "If this is what you wanted, you could have just told me. But instead you chose lies. You chose betrayal. And that ends here." Her eyes filled with tears, but I could see it clearly. They weren't tears of remorse, only fear of losing the life she had grown comfortable in. She had never expected me to hold the mirror up to her lies. The man beside her looked just as ruined, realizing in that single moment that his carefully balanced double life was collapsing in front of everyone. His wife didn't hesitate. She told him plainly that their marriage was finished, and that his actions would cost him dearly. His helpless expression told the whole story. He knew it too. We didn't drag the moment out. We didn't scream or cry or beg. We left them there, humiliated in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by strangers who had witnessed everything. As we stepped outside, his wife leaned toward me and whispered, "They thought they were clever, but they forgot we were owed the truth." Her voice carried both sorrow and strength, and in that instant, I knew we had done the right thing. The drive home was heavy with silence, but my mind was sharp, my path clear. For years, I had brushed aside the warning signs. Her casual mentions of her so-called work husband, her secretive smiles at her phone, The excuses that never quite added up. I had convinced myself it was nothing, that I was imagining things. But standing in that lobby, seeing them together, I knew I had ignored the obvious for too long. When she finally walked through our front door later that night, her face was streaked with tears. She begged me to forgive her, insisted nothing had gone too far, that it was all just a mistake. But her words meant nothing to me anymore. Once trust is broken, once the line is crossed, there is no rewinding. Something inside me had closed, and no apology could reach it. In the weeks that followed, I turned inward, rebuilding piece by piece. I focused on myself, on reclaiming the honesty and peace that betrayal had stolen. The pain was sharp, yes, but it carried with it a strange clarity. Betrayal destroys, but exposing it, dragging it out into the light, restores something deeper. My wife lost more than my trust that day. She lost the future we were supposed to share. And as I walked forward, leaving her lies behind, I realized the strongest revenge isn't anger or destruction. It's standing in the truth and refusing to be broken by their deceit. Sometimes, the greatest strength is simply showing up at the right moment and letting the truth do the rest.